one of the questions asks for a presentation, so that's a slide form. Oh, you didn't see that, did you?
I saw that.
It's on the slide.
All right, so who did Adams? You did? Okay, tell us about Adams.
Okay.
You did
so-
too?
No, I was wondering, I was looking for the cases online, but
They're
is
there.
there a particular site that we need to go on?
You just Google them, they come right up.
No.
No, but some,
Can't get like
most of
a
them are
note.
all like the same thing. They're on the same topic. Remember I told you that last week?
I see a lot of notes, like, when I, search them, I see things like, okay, this is an extract within notes, but it's like a small extract, but not the complete. I stopped looking after I looked at five.
You could still read
Plus
the notes,
those.
but some of them are very long.
Oh, okay, so just, okay.
Some of them is 30 pages long.
Yeah, 100
100
pages.
pages, some are long.
Okay, okay, just now.
Then if you have the notes, you know what they apply to
Exactly.
in the chapter. Okay, she's gonna do Adams.
Okay, so in this case, Cape Industries was an English company that mined asbestos in South Africa, and they marketed their products in the US. And so they had established a complex system of subsidiaries, and there were some workers in Texas that had contracted illnesses due to asbestos exposure. And so they were unable to sue the companies that employed them because of the corporate reorganization, which left them without assets. And so what they tried to do was to get a judgment against the parent company, and they tried to argue that the parent company was the one that was actually working in the US as a means to go after and get recovery from the parent. And so they were saying that basically the parent company was just an agent, or the subsidiaries
Was
were
an
an agent
agent.
of the parent company.
Mhm.
They also use the argument that it's just one single economic unit, that, you know, the parent and the subsidiaries were just one company. And then they also tried to say that the separate companies were just a facade, and it was really the parent. But the court rejected all of those arguments, and they refused to lift or pierce the corporate veil, and so they could not seek recovery against the parent.
Mhm. So who has another one, another case with Paris in the corporate veil? What you have?
DHN Food. Okay, this was
So
where,
as we go through them and you go through the list, put what the cases represent. And if you haven't looked them up, then look them up when you go home. Okay, do DHN.
DHN Food Distributors and versus LB Towner and Hamlets. This is where there was a parent company called DHN, and she had two subsidiaries, one called Bronze and another one that was responsible for transportation. And what happened was Bronze had the land vested in them because the land was conveyed to them, so the land was in their name. But DHN was the actual business that operated from the land where Bronze was located. And what happened was that the council compulsory purchased the land. And when they compulsory purchased the land, DHN went into liquidation. All three companies went into liquidation. And when all three companies went into liquidation, the council compensated them for the land, but it was argued whether or not they should be compensated for disturbance of business. And let's see what else. And the courts basically reversed the ruling of the land tribunal and held that a group of companies should be treated as a single economic entity, and that DHN was entitled to compensation for disturbance.
Okay, so what's the difference between your case and hers?
Well, basically, with DHN, the directors and the shareholders were one and the same, and the subsidiaries were wholly owned by the parent company.
Wasn't yours the same way?
Hers was the same way?
Mm-hmm. You see why I say you have to read them as many as you can, because you have to be able to distinguish the difference as to why the court came to, even though they're the same structure, why did they come to a different decision?
I think they looked at them as one economic entity and that they couldn't operate separately off their own. Without the transportation company and without the land, without Ron's holding the land, DHN, the business could not exist.
But with hers, they were able to function independently.
Yes.
Okay, who else did one? And, okay.
Macaro,
In
no.
that,
In that, yeah, no. No, yours different?
I did Jones.
They fall around the same, but they
Yeah.
take a different year.
Right.
Okay, so,
You want me to go? You
Yeah,
want
go
to say
ahead.
someone? Okay. Jones and Lippman pretty much dealt with the sale of the land. Lippman just, agreed to sell his property to Jones for like £5,000, but subsequent to that, he changed his mind. So what he did was he formed a company in which he made himself the director and the owner of the company, and he transferred the land to the company, the same company that he agreed to sell to Jones initially. And under the rules of the Supreme Court, the purchaser applied for a specific performance to be carried out against Lippman. And the issue was, the court was required to decide if the order of specific performance could be enforced against the company in these circumstances. And it was held that it could be because the defendant's company was created as a mask to avoid the
and we
recognition.
discussed that last
of-
week.
right.
He knew
What he was doing.
what he was doing.
Right.
What's the next one you did? You did Guilford?
I did.
Okay.
Did anyone else?
Anybody else in Guilford?
I did.
You did that one too? Okay, go ahead.
No, I didn't go.
No, do Guilford.
Yeah, I did Guilford.
You did Guilford too?
Piercing the corporate veil.
Mm-hmm. Let her do
You
Guilford.
could let-
Yeah, do Guilford.
I didn't, on Thursday when I realized Guilford was actually listed in our thing, I kinda didn't follow through with it, so I'm gonna have to read.
Go ahead,
That's okay.
go ahead. Yeah, because some of them don't have it.
Mr. E.B. Horn, the case is Guilford Motor Company Limited versus Horn. E.B. Horn was formerly a managing director of Guilford Motor Company Limited. His employment contract stipulated in clause 9 not to solicit customers of the company if he were to leave the employment. Mr. Horn was fired and he set up his own business and undercut Guilford's motor by price cutbacks. He received legal advice saying that he was probably acting in breach of the contract. So he set up a company, JMH Horn and Co. Ltd., where his wife and a friend called Mr. Howard were the sole shareholders and the directors. They took over Horn's business and continued it. Mr. Horn sent out flyers saying, spares and services of all models of Guilford vehicles, 17 Horsley Lane, opposite Crouch End Lane, no connection to any other file. Basically trying to say he's distancing himself. The judgment, Farwell J. held that the covenant, that Mr. Horn would not compete was broken. So the High Court said it cannot help feeling quite convinced that at any rate, one of the reasons for the creation of that company was the fear that Mr. Horn, that he might commit breaches of the covenant in carrying out the business, which he was already advised, pointedly he was. So lost my space. But because the covenant was too wide and against public policy, restraint of trade was by the category, he refused to enforce it. So Guilford Motor appealed. Lord Hawthorne from the Court of Appeal granted an injunction so that Horn was forced to stop competing through the company. So basically, he had to cancel this company, close up the company, because the courts found he was actually in breach of the contract from when he was hired under Guilford.
All right. Who did another one?
I did Macaro.
I did a piece of Seaboard
Seaboard.
in the last one, on the first page.
the ship.
Number 40, okay, tell us about the ship.
The ship owner didn't give the chief engineer sufficient time to familiarize himself with the boat. So he ended up taking the boat out. And the boat, where he wasn't familiarized with the boat, he ended up doing a boo-boo in the engine room. Right, so the state now wants to sue Seaboard and the defendants and the chief engineer. But the ship owner didn't give the chief engineer time to familiarize himself with the boat. So I think the ruler went to like Seaboard was sued based on the fact that you didn't give the chief engineer time to familiarize himself with the
So
boat.
they were negligent.
Right, negligence on Seaboard's part.
What did they rule? What was the final, that case was a little bit confusing to me, because I felt that, I think that it shouldn't have gone the way that it did, because they didn't give them, the directors, they were saying that something about it wasn't a mind and the will of the directors, and it couldn't be placed on the employee.
They wanted to charge the
Employee, that's what she's saying, but they
Yeah, but they
actually
couldn't.
made the company liable.
Made the company liable.
Yes,
So the company was held liable.
yes, negligence on the company, on the
Okay,
ship owner.
yeah.
Insufficient
yeah.
training,
Okay, good.
insufficient training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Insufficient.
he wasn't familiarized with the boat.
Yeah, because they said it would have been a defense if they had done all that they could in the circumstances.
That's why it went so high.
Mm-hmm.
He rented one of the highest court in England.
Yeah, it's pretty consummate.
No, actually,
No.
Lords of.
House of Laws.
House of
Yeah,
Lords.
House of Lords.
Okay.
All right, another case, what you have?
I did Lee versus Lee Air Farming Limited.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I picked up 5 points where,
Okay.
Mr. Lee formed a company, Lee's Farming Limited, in which he owned all the shares but one. He was the company's sole director and also employed as the company's chief pilot. Lee was killed while flying doing duties. His wife put in a claim for compensation in the New England's workers' compensation legislation. And the court is arguing whether or not she should be compensated in that matter. So they are trying to determine whether or not, but like I said, the issue here is her claim, putting in the claim for compensation. So the court wants to know whether or not one person may function in dual capacity as
Employee and employer.
employee
And employer.
and employer in that matter. And the company had a right to decide which contracts for top dress and it would enter into on the matter. Now, I know if I was going right or wrong. But I was writing and going along. But to me, it's a separate legal personality or entity or something. They said every person has a legal personality. If you incorporate a company, it will have a separate and legal personality.
From the individual?
You
So
all
the
lawyers
company-
can help me and let me know if I'm on the right track.
The company and Mr. was a separate legal
Right.
entity.
Yeah, separate.
So would she
Remember,
get
that's
the
the
money?
same thing from Solomon versus Solomon, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it did mention that in there.
Is when you incorporate the company and you know you seeking to defraud
Right.
or conceal.
Okay.
But most of the companies in the offshore sector are done that way. One shareholder, one director.
So she was compensated. She got it.
Yeah, she had
24 something pounds.
And her children,
Happened there,
I had 4, I think it was 4 children and she had, and she, like I said, she was seeking compensation for all of them.
Claims and damages.
What you want?
I have Williams versus Natural Life. Health
Okay.
Food Store. So my attempt at this was, okay, Mr. Williams wanted a franchise for a health food store. So he wanted to use Natural Life's brand and pay them a fixed fee. He received a brochure with the financial projections and entered into the scheme, but the company failed. He decided that he would sue Natural Life, claiming that the advice in the brochure was negligent, right? Natural Life went into liquidation while the suit was going on. So, Mr. Williams sought to hold the managing director and main shareholder, Mr. Mistelin, personally liable because stated in the brochure was that Mr. Mistelin had a lot of experience, and he had succeeded with this, with these plans. So, the High Court and the Court of Appeal allowed Mr. Williams' claim to sue Mr. Lin. But Mr. Lin appealed to the House of Lords, and it was decided that, wait, hold on now, there's another thing in here. Hey, something about Hadley, Bryan, and Co., they quoted another case, but anyway,
Venue representation.
Yeah.
the
Misrepresentation.
judgment was that the company is a separate entity, it was distinct, and there was no special relationship between the director and Mr. Williams, right? So, the final decision was that he had no liability because it would undermine the concept of a limited liability. And there's some other stuff going on in there that I can't really explain.
Like what?
Lloyd,
Like, they quoted another case because, the respondent, felt, their attorneys felt like Mr. Lin played a prominent part, because he directed the projections and supplied the information, but he didn't directly, it was just.
No, we didn't.
Right,
No,
so
he didn't.
they still
Didn't
lost.
make any
Not
representation.
at all, no.
Right. So Mr. Lin was a stranger to that particular relationship, therefore he could not be held liable as a joint tortfeasor with the company. And there was no special relationship in essence.
Because he looked at, he read it, and he decided that's what he wanted to do.
Right, so,
So that's an example for a joint tortfeasor director.
That's similar to Ord and
Williams for his
Bellhaven.
natural life.
You did that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen to this one,
What's that?
Ord versus Bellhaven Pubs.
number 27.
That was where Mr. and Miss Ord ran a Fox Inn in Sanford, Lincolnshire. There was an ongoing dispute for the freehold of the pub, Bellhaven Pubs. They technically felt as if they misrepresented the projected intent of the pub. It was supposed to generate further businesses with the close proximity to the inn. And Bellhaven apparently was a part of a company group. And with the reorganization, it had no real assets. The company group was set up by several other companies, Ascot Holdings and Hub House LG. But with that, they still went ahead to file a case against them. And in the judgment of the order, it was granted to the Ords for misrepresentation. However, Bellhaven Pubs actually appealed, and the judgment in the Court of Appeal overturned the original judgment, advising that the reorganization was a legitimate one because of the financial crisis both majority of the companies was in. And the parent or the money company was Ascot Holdings, was not liable, and there was no nefarious means that they actually entered into the group, the agreement for the group company. So they lost the case. There was no further ulterior motive for the formation of the grouping of companies.
Because that's what a lot of people think, that if I am in the process of bringing a claim against you and you restructure,
You're trying to hide,
that
you're
you're
trying to
trying to
run.
hide. But most people think that. What other case you read?
Wolfson, and that was basically saying that set precedents in absence of a sham, the separateness of each entity in the group will be upheld.
What did you read? Kind of what it got to do with varsity in
I
general.
agree.
You know you missed the class, what's the final book?
I was there.
What the homework is. You did it.
Yep.
See?
You're on the same
Right,
board as
man,
you.
you gotta need to put the last level in. You gotta guess somebody's number.
That's right.
I asked her for her number, she was at the end.
Who that?
You really missed the class. Which other cases you read? Plenty on
Macaro
there.
and versus
Macaro and
North
Northern
and-
Insurance?
Yeah.
I was doing that one.
You was doing that one?
No,
Okay.
I didn't finish it because I couldn't, nothing came up on it.
Don't mind that online.
I didn't get, I
See
went on the
there.
site and I didn't get it.
You can present that. You can present that.
You do things.
Oh, no, I'm good, love, thanks. Mr. Macaro owned the Killymoon Estate in Tyrone, Ireland. It was where he was housing, I can't say if he produced the timber, but he was housing timber for a Canadian-based company, Irish Canadian Sawmills. And he basically ran the company solely. He had 42,000 fully paid up £1 shares in the company, making him the whole owner with nominees. Now I didn't understand that, so you're gonna have to maybe help me out with that one.
Which means that he didn't hold the shares in his name.
Okay. So he had apparently
Another company.
also unsecured creditors at £19,000.
Is that for purpose of a shop?
That's a nominee,
For
right?
anonymity.
He ended up having some unsecured creditors at £19,000, where he got insurance policies, but not in his own name, not the company name. I don't know how he got the insurance company, but anyhow, he did, with Northern Insurance covering for fire, and ironically enough, 2 weeks later, there was a fire. So the insurance company refused to pay because the timber was owned by the company, and that because the company was a separate legal entity, it didn't have to pay Mr. Macaro any money. So there was a judgment from the House of Lords, I guess that's the highest court, they went straight up, that the insurers were not liable for the contract. Cause being, since the timber that perished in the fire didn't belong to Mr. Macaro, who
Belonged to
held
the
the
company.
insurance company
In his name.
by name.
In his
But
name,
by
but not
the
in the
nomin-
name of the
okay.
company.
Lord Buckmaster gave the first judgment, holding the favor of the insurance companies, and then Lord Atkinson concurred. Lord Sumner further concurred and said, quote, "My lords, this appeal relates to an insurance on goods against loss by fire. It's clear that the appellant had no insurable interest in the timber described. It was not his. It belonged to Irish Canadian Sawmills Limited. He had no lien or security over it, and though it lay on his land by his permission, he had no responsibility to its owner for its safety." How is that possible? Like just paying rent for the property?
I could own something on someone's
Yeah.
property.
On that, what, lease or something?
No, you have no lease.
And anyway, nor was there under any contract that enabled him to hold it for his debt.
Yeah.
Bottom line. He owned almost all of the shares in the company, and the company owed him a good deal of monies, but neither as a creditor nor as a shareholder, because he held nominees. I don't understand the ruling on that part.
We are from the law book. Somebody, you are.
It's a many cases.
They want to have another version of Makora?
Current there.
Yes, it's 100. Something in there. Okay, so he was the shareholder. The principle in this case is that a shareholder has no proprietary interest in the assets of a company. All they own is their shares and the rights associated with
To the
those
shares.
shares.
That's it.
That's it. So they said Macaro owned the Killymoon estate in Ireland. He insured some timber on the estate. He insured it personally.
In his name.
He transferred the estate and timber to a company in return for shares, but did not apparently have the insurance reissued in the name of the company. The timber was substantially destroyed by fire. The insurance company successfully resisted his claim on the policy, arguing that the timber was not his to insure. Because he took the assets were his at the beginning, and then he made them the assets of the company. But prior to doing that, he had insured it in his own name. So when he formed the company, he should have transferred the policy in the name of the company.
He should have been the
So
beneficiary,
he no longer owned the assets. So remember, so when you're doing your capstone, a shareholder has no proprietary interest in the assets of a company. All they own is their shares and the rights associated with it. All right, next one. So that's any homework.
I came across an old case from my classes way back when. I don't have too much of the facts, but it's called Daimler versus Continental Tire. It said it occurred close to the First World War, where Continental was an English registered company, and most of its shares were owned by a German company. And all of the directors were German, who were registered in Germany. Continental sued Daimler for money which was due. Continental counterclaimed and said, if you lift the veil of incorporation, it is truly a German entity, and pulled prohibition of trading with Enemy Act 1914, which said transaction with the enemies are not enforceable.
Get that? They all look lost.
Transfer of entity is not enforceable.
Because it was during the time of World War I, and Germany and England were
Clearly
at
at
war.
war.
They were enemies.
Yes, at
And
war.
so there was a legislation called Trading with the Enemy Act. And so they said if you lift the veil of incorporation, you will find that the true owners are German,
Germans.
and we are prohibited from trading with the enemy.
So they lost
So
the
they lost
assets.
Nike. Read the fine print, say that.
Anybody else? No more?
I can do this.
Uh-huh.
Okay, number 4, that's,
Google
Google
Press?
So, in this case, there were 3 members of the company. 2 of them owned 90% of the shares and tried to buy out the minority owner with 10%, but the minority owner did not agree. So what they did was they transferred their shares to another company, and there was a provision or an act which said that if you own 90% of the shares, you can acquire the minority interest in this company. And so, in this case, what the court found is that they could pierce the corporate veil, and once they did that, they discovered that this company that was established was simply set up by the majority shareholders to take over the company. So it was set up improperly.
Anybody else? That's it? Everybody just did the familiar ones?
The Tesco ones are a bit
Some of them, I don't know what
complicated.
sign they couldn't find them. They wasn't coming out.
Those are come.
No, for true?
Never got one coming up.
Tesco
Some,
ones
most of
are.
them didn't come up on the site that I was in.
I'm not
Truster
sure.
AB similar to Cat Adams and Cape.
Presto and Small Bone?
Because they mentioned Adams and Cape. They said the noted the tensions between Adams and Cape versus Cape Industry. Later cases and stated the impropriety was not enough to pass the bail, but the court was entitled to do so where a company is used as a device or facet to conceal the true facts.
All right, so when you look at your capstone, let me see yours.
Second question.
Yeah, So, a lot of these cases build on others with regard to piercing the corporate veil. So no, sometimes it's done because it's a sham or facade, and sometimes it's because of concealment. So you're gonna have to, when you read your cases, if you get a later one, you'll see they discuss all the previous ones. So when you do the capstone, make sure that you refer to the right cases.
The ones that not overruled, you try to say, make sure we don't discuss ones that have been overruled.
Yes. It's not tricky.
So you have to read the latest cases.
You need to read the latest ones and they will break it down.
Because there was one case I noted that 1978 was one, like Wolfstone Strathclyde was 1978, and DHN was 1976. And basically Wolfstone said it said prisons and absence of a sham. So even though in DHN, when they lifted the corporate veil and they said they look at it as one, so now they come back, that was 1976, when they said they look at it as one. Then they come in 1978, they say in the absence of a sham, they say it can be done.
Exactly. And so this is always a discussion when it comes to company law, when to pierce the corporate veil. And it is very rarely done. Very rarely. So you have to read the cases, and when you answer the question, you have to apply the cases that goes with the scenario of given you. Arguing both sides. So don't wait till the last minute. So we good? Okay, so let's start chapter 2.
Mom,
Yes.
you remember?
Okay, types of companies. Now, if you brought your legislation, you know that there are many different types of companies. Type of companies mean a company can be limited by
Shares.
Shares.
Guarantee.
or,
Shares and guarantee.
okay, it can be limited, unlimited, or
partnership.
it could be a duration, be for a particular duration. A company can be incorporated under either the IBC Act or, alright. So a company limited by shares, a company where the liability of its members to contribute towards the payment of its debt is limited to their investment in the company. By guarantee, where the liability of its members is limited by its constitution to the amount that they have undertaken to contribute to the asset should the company be wound up. But in most instances, most companies are wound up, are actually incorporated by shares. Because if you do it by guarantee, unless they are wealthy, when time comes, they may not have any money. Unless they take those funds and they actually hold them in escrow.
So a company incorporated by guarantee means that you guarantee that you will pay all the creditors?
You're gonna know, you guarantee that when the company is wound up and you need to pay, this is the amount that you're going to pay.
So it's guaranteed up to a certain amount?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a limitation as well?
A company limited by guarantee does not have a share capital as there is no contribution required until winding up. Additionally, these companies have members and not shareholders. Since companies limited by guarantee have no share capital, they are private companies and not public companies. So everybody knows what a public company is.
Offering shares to the public.
Only shares the public. There is no restriction on such companies trading, however, it's primarily used for non-profit companies and is widely used for community projects and sporting associations, educational, and for charities. So you know right now what's the controversy when it comes to non-profit organizations in the Bahamas?
The registration of their financial.
Their financials. And they're saying, why do they want it done? Why
You
they
mean the
protest
source
it?
of funds? That they are legitimately a nonprofit?
Exactly.
And what does that have to do with churches now, that they're trying to get churches to basically disclose their financials as well?
Mhm. Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they? In order to regulate a society, everybody
Should be open.
should be regulated. Why not? Yes.
Well,
So
money
you can
laundering,
everything.
I guess they consider it money laundering again.
See if any drug money is and things,
The
what
church
cost
spend a
of,
lot of money.
you know,
Yes, they
Reverend
do.
Arch and those hiding and things.
Well, what a time.
But are they looking, you think they're looking to tax the church though? Do you think that's the end goal? Because, I mean, didn't they do that to the money boys, to the, number boys?
Yeah, but that's different. That's
Yeah, that's a whole,
I don't think they want to tax the church though.
it's a whole different.
They might.
That's what I think, that's why, I think that's why most preachers are coming up against it, because they wanna tax the church.
But if everything you're doing is on the up and up, what's the
Right, that was
problem?
Yeah.
Right, I don't feel like it
But
should
they
be a
don't,
problem.
they don't wanna be taxed.
Why? Why?
Why not?
Church is considered to be non-profit or something like that, city like it have business. So why, how do you tax a
But are they
non-profit?
truly non-profit organizations?
That's the question. Are they?
That's the question. Or do I have a building that I call a church, and all the funds that I collect goes to my house, and my car, and my vacation, and my wigs and my clothes and all the rest of that?
Not my wigs and my clothes.
All of that, all of that is in it, all of it. Rather than you giving back to society. That's what a non-profit is. Money comes in, and it
Or
goes back out.
or for the upkeep of the building.
You can do
and
the upkeep of the building, but
and-
it all goes back out.
think that's what
And what
saved
you
us.
get as a preacher is just a stipend.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, a
It can't
stipend.
be a salary.
It
Otherwise
can't
you
be
need
a
to pay,
salary.
you gotta
Most
pay
people
tax.
who work for non-profit organizations
Don't
just
get a stipend, they don't get a salary.
It's not a salary,
Not that they're awful, it's just, thank you.
not the car getting old and
But they have
giving
to
you
be
one.
understanding because of the lifestyle,
It's
what they
got-
live in.
But you know,
Their
the
lifestyle
game,
is
the
different.
game
You
they
have to
play,
understand
the
that.
game they play is someone starts to whisper from the back. Pastor needs a new car.
Love offering.
We give a love
See it.
offering. So,
See it.
right,
See
and
it.
so it goes
See it.
outside, see? So
You
it
know
goes
what, love,
outside,
see it.
it goes outside of the general
I know.
offering.
The bishop, like Bishop Neal doesn't get it, Bishop Neal doesn't get a salary, you know,
What do you get?
he gets love offerings.
I know.
I know. They get salaries.
$7,000 and up.
Yep. They get
They get
salaries.
paid a salary.
Seriously?
And the people in church suffering.
Suffering.
Church and communities, cause you see
Yeah.
neighbors around them churches.
So where is the
Yeah.
chapter, but where is it,
Yes,
where
yeah.
is it, where's
So
the
are they
charity?
really non-profit organizations? No.
It's done in the way a lot of people.
But that's just local, because they want
Yeah,
to
that's
tie it
good.
into international agencies, the money still leave the country.
Mm-hmm.
My point exactly, you know, if the financials is given, or you need to produce them, if you have enough time. Simple,
They don't want to put it.
cause they know.
You know they know.
That's a real slippery slope.
Yeah.
I agree.
They have nothing to hide.
You know, you sign on to these international agencies, they don't
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
they have
So
to
you
pay.
can't,
Thank
you
you.
can't,
Yeah.
and those agencies don't do it. So how you get to when a new part of the agencies, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Full gospel or anything along those lines, if you sign on to an international variation of it, they do not put, IRS can't get it because they still fight it, the congressman can't get the information, they still fight it. So how is it here, you're part of that order, but here you're trying to give the information out publicly, so that's still a fight. Cause that'll set precedent, somewhere else could say, well, in that country, they had to dispel it.
But
this
you know,
one, so-
every country has its own laws, you know.
That's just true.
Oh, but you here?
So this
That's
way
our
it's
law.
the different law.
It's starting to be developed in our law, so yeah.
In other countries, they have their laws, you abide by their laws,
Go
and
there.
this is our laws. everybody's popping up on church all over the place.
A lot.
Seriously.
It's funny you said
And the
that.
people, are
girl on the
all
bike.
suffering, so
Suffering. And that's what kills me.
something ain't,
Ain't
it ain't right. You see that, eh?
I don't keep telling them that.
Eh? And live and
Take
live
it.
hands
Yes, God ain't telling them that.
The scary part about it.
You know that now? Everybody has a church,
Everybody.
churches during the day
At night.
or in the night.
All
and they
day.
telling everybody the future.
All day.
Say the future. Hold
Yes,
on.
they do.
All day.
They're telling them their future.
It's funny you said the way you said it because in the bank, this is a bank story, there was this teller that entered a deposit to a direct pastor's account, not the church account. And one of the checks, it
It's a
had
lot
a,
of money.
it had a simple $50, but it was, she entered it as 500 and the church chased this man, the bank chased this man down. Oh, that's not my account, that's my wife's account, you need to call her. And it wasn't, and they kept that account empty. When the bank brought the discrepancy to their whatever so that they could have it back, cause they cleaned it out. And the minute they deposited the money back, they took everything and they came in, the pastor came in the church, in the bank carrying on back the money.
What was in it? There you go. There you go.
It was already an
And then you
error,
have the
and
people
you
in the
ran.
church
There you
The
go.
account was
on your
blank for
job.
almost 7
To
months.
say,
And when they put the deposit
you
on,
don't attend church
came in
on
our church,
Sunday,
the bank
your
carrying
check
like a
is
fool.
missing.
Yeah.
Where's your tax?
joking? Who's do that?
That's
Who's
why.
that?
Someone who did that to my friend.
Yeah.
Who's do
I know
that?
she
What was
did
that?
three
What did they
times.
say? What did they say when
What
they
call you on your
denomination?
job.
What denomination,
I don't
ma'am?
know one of them ones, I don't know.
Yeah. No, no fault.
It's several, you can't narrow that down, cause I know for a fact, there's one place.
They will call
I know one
you
place
on
that
your
did the
job.
same, but I don't think it's the same one she would, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a minimum of 3 or 4.
That's really cool.
I am right here.
I could pray in I could pray in my room.
God can find you, God can find you.
Right there, man.
I couldn't believe that.
It's a lot.
They noticed she didn't pay tax that week.
Yeah, they call you for it.
I say,
Yeah.
And they will tell you the amount.
Them people so church hurt is the voice hurt.
I don't think we really do.
The worst.
Get burned down one time. But I
And another issue we have with the non-profit organizations, you see what I have here? I said where it's constitution, memo and arts, prohibits the distribution of profits to its members either by way of dividend or in a winding up. So we have a lot of non-profit organizations that have bank accounts,
A lot of
no memo and arts, lots of money. Everybody believe they could sign on the account, money going here, there and all over the place.
That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
gonna
Oh,
get-
yes,
The title nonprofit is really being abused.
yes it is,
So they need to be regulated.
yes.
They do.
Okay.
All right, no.
Without a doubt.
No objections
Without a
asked.
doubt. So you can have a hybrid company, that's one with share and guarantee. A public company. It's a company formed in order to enable the investing public to share in the profits of an enterprise without taking any part in its management. So everybody is waiting now for the IPO. For, which company?
I don't know.
I don't know.
IPO.
Mm.
National company.
Initial.
Initial public offering. They're waiting
Can
for
I
that
ask you a
one.
You bringing it?
Yes.
I just wanna do a
Wow.
reference to
You think he's gonna
where
bring
can
it?
I find a private
That would be
placement?
good. He said that's.
Where, which
You
act
think?
can I find a private placement,
I haven't heard about
legislation
that.
regarding private placement,
I have
With regard to.
to securities,
Securities Act and
Securities.
regulations,
Securities Act, which year?
2000 and. It's only one, go to Securities Commission website,
Securities Commission website.
and then go on the legislation, it's right there, the act and its regulation. Huh? Yes, public company, so everybody's waiting on that one. So what do you think will be the effect of that offering?
Well, he don't
What
get
you mean?
for the amount of intake.
Yeah, they are. You have to
Return,
look at it
the return should be good.
holistically.
Mm-hmm.
First, you were so-called illegal. Then we passed legislation and we made it legal. And then you realize that in hindsight, the legality of it and the way in which it was legalized was incorrect. Because you allowed so-called illegal funds to be
Become
intertwined
legal,
with
yeah.
legal funds.
Yes.
So, you had to cut it off, even though it already passed through. So now you're saying that everything that is in there is legal. Cause it came
It's been
from,
clean, it's been washed.
no, we don't want the wash part. You're saying that everything that goes into the account now comes from us,
From legitimate business.
from whatever we have.
Mm-hmm.
Cause we know we have the addiction problem already, that got started like that, mostly females. Yes, females.
Hairy nails.
No, I met a lady yesterday, she was on the bank line with her phone, playing,
Spinning.
spinning, her
She was
Suzy
spinning?
Booty, which is called a Suzy, whatever it is.
She's spinning.
And I said, what are you doing? She said,
You asked her what she doing.
yes, because she's in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And she said,
Spinning.
and she said, no, she said, I'm trying to win my rent. I said, what?
Boy, a lot of them
She said, yes. I said, so how you know you win? And she said, ah, God, you bring me luck. She won $100.
Yeah, she must get some wild.
That's what she said. She told him, she helped me up, she said, oh, thank you.
That's the start of rent.
No,
but she can use it again, exactly.
She's gonna lose that. She's
No.
gonna spend that rent
She was
off.
on the bank line.
She must be trying to phone on.
$300 for her rent. She said she's gonna go and get that 100 to
Okay,
go
why
buy
she do
that
that?
with it. because
How
her
much time
landlord
she have
needs
already
his money
lost?
there For Monday.
Yeah,
Majority of them
like,
win
come on,
and
man.
spend it
You
like
lose
that.
more than you win.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And she said she
Crazy.
limits herself to $10.
Please, they all say
She
that.
said you ain't
Not if
just
she on the
spinning.
phone in the bank.
Oh,
On her
that
phone.
ain't the-
Not my mother.
Mind that she
on
had
her.
her get this money.
Not my mommy. She used
Yeah.
to lose all her money. Still good. I'm still good.
Yeah,
It's a
It's a
habit.
chance.
that is.
It's a habit.
So she said to me, she said, I don't know which one is worse, gambling or being a coke addict.
She said that? Yes, this was all this conversation was happening.
Yeah,
It is an addiction.
Big
It's
Friday
like
bank
somebody
full.
who gets up at
They
2
can't
o'clock
stop.
in the morning to spend, because
Yes.
that's apparently
Yeah, that's a
the
good
slot.
time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I'm
when
like,
you
when
That's some
they're trying to
serious-
get the system.
Right.
It hooks
It's
you.
not being used.
You win a big
as
set of
much
money
during
first.
the slot,
Yeah.
So the chances is.
Yeah,
Tell her
yeah,
can't
yeah,
lose
yeah.
dollar.
I want
I'm
to
not
hit
losing
them
one
around
dollar.
too.
That's serious.
It's
Yeah.
very serious.
I've
So
never
there
heard
is-
of
there
this.
is-
I
People
spend
lose
some
their
time, but I've never
relationships,
heard
their
of that.
homes, their families, they lose a lot with that same foolishness. Yeah.
so she's trying to make her rent when I saw her yesterday.
I said like this, I lose all my money.
So now what's gonna happen now with an IPO?
Well, the thing is, it depends on the amount, the start of the initial offering amount.
If he is wise, he would want to get more of the public.
Mm-hmm.
Than his own money.
No, then the so-called rich.
Corporate, oh.
Cause the more we buy in, the more
He
successful it will be.
But the, in comparison to the rich, why? They just hoard it and they get richer? I mean, I'm just.
Yeah.
curious. Oh,
So
okay.
everybody can be able to invest.
And then the
and
thing
make
is,
some
most
money.
of the wealthy families over here are not gonna invest in it anyway.
Yeah, some people.
Publicly?
Another idea being proposed now for the port, right? Some of the,
Mhm.
Get a job.
So they doing a share split?
there, one of the, prospects, I think they were proposing to own 49% and offer 51%
To the
to the
public,
public.
yeah.
Cause they didn't have to buy all in the first run to begin with.
Pardon?
They didn't have to buy all in the first run to begin with. People was waiting to buy the stocks and the top five families took it all.
Oh, you mean our
Yeah,
port development? This
yeah.
is
Oh, okay,
This
that's
is
what I was
the
talking about.
port, the closed port development now that
And
they're
I
proposing.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens with that.
But see, the thing about it
I agree
is,
with that.
whenever they have an IPO, the guy you heard, the one about, the gaming one is being talked for the last two and a half years, right? as citizens, you have to get ready.
Is it coming?
Because unlike us, the other color, they can come together and they can buy
In
more.
a heartbeat.
And get it.
Seriously.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even though the point which you made, where you said that
The
only five got
tablets,
it,
yeah.
that, those five may
share
represent
that.
each one of them, 30 or 20 people, you know.
I understand that. I didn't mean it to say only
You have
Jack
to be
Garden.
ready.
It's a blocking. They literally blocked the market. They took the market.
Plus they do
That's business.
everything, yeah.
Yeah, that's what business.
Everything, yeah.
That's business.
But the irony was, and I said I'd only be tracking the history, that was the year that, the former Prime Minister, Hubert Ingram, had asked or made implementations for government employees to be able to be
Yes.
in line to do the purchases, and then people would stockpile high, like you say, the point of getting the ready,
Mhm.
and there was nothing to get.
Yeah,
But
because,
work
but then I
already,
don't
yeah.
forget how the rules go now.
Oh,
If I have an IPO, right,
Mm.
and I say I have 5,000 shares, it's first come, first serve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
agree.
said it was oversubscribed.
It's oversubscribed, and that's how it works.
Mhm.
Even with the government
The
stuff,
government
only,
ones are like that.
only sometimes what government does is, what they do is, they will encourage you, if you're a small person, be there first. Because if an insurance company needs to
Buy on.
invest, it's on.
Finish.
shareholder returns and
You see
dividends,
what I'm
yes, I
saying?
know.
But if you come
When you
together
get a break, even if I don't make
as a group
$7,000 ready to buy
on a
stock,
block,
I get there.
you can get it.
Do my research.
But if you
This
come in
supposed to
between
be
you with your little
Oh,
2,000 here, your 1,000 there,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? That dribble
Yeah.
is gonna take too long.
Yeah.
I have a business to run. So think about it yourself. If I have a business to run and I need to raise $1 million and I open it up to you and you come in with 500, and she come with 750 and he come in with $1 million, I go in with that. I'm done. It's business.
It is.
Yeah.
I always say people stop getting emotional about these things. There's no emotions in this. I need this amount of money. Who coming up with it? You gotta get your food together. Please don't fight afterwards. You have to be on the fire. Yeah.
Gone.
And that's what you have to do. Okay, yes.
Okay.
So those are the things to think about. Whenever you want to, but are you ready?
No.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
You're not ready.
Coming.
Whether that one is coming or that one is
Yes,
coming,
yes.
it's
Something
coming.
coming, yeah.
Okay.
Because you have to look at how the economy is changing. You can't sit here and just listen to the people who talk on the radio. Things are changing. And if you don't buy into your country, it won't move. You can't sit here and just keep complaining. You gotta put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, then complain about foreign investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But that is what's happening. I want you to take over the hill. Look over the hill, there are houses that have been abandoned for years. Some people have family members who died, life insurance. Some people got $500,000, $250,000, this. Instead of them saying, guess what? All our Grammys died, let the five of us pool together, buy this road. No, they're the Chinese buy it.
Yes.
And then
That's
they
no
get
problem.
And then they get angry. But you see, you're saying it's how you think.
Totally agree with you.
It's how you think.
Yep.
And when they wake up, to take back, it's too late.
Yes. And you're older.
Yeah, when they're older,
You're older.
it's too late.
Too late.
Because the time is now. Everything is changing right before your eyes and you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it. The Chinese are taking one small house,
Handle them in there.
no, they make it into a hotel.
Yeah.
They take that small
See?
house right there,
Mhm.
that land is 100 by 100, they
They
carry it
lock.
to the end, and then they take it up.
Take it. Let's see Fred Sushi. That's
Yeah.
a prime example.
Yeah. They maximize that land.
Wasn't there like a house on the?
Dude, that's a big hotel in the back there.
Yes.
Of the restaurant.
And
I didn't
before, when
know
you all,
that was
when
in
you
the
all
back
wake
there.
up, it's too late.
God, it's no lie.
But the people are selling it. Cause they have no vision, no vision. Yes, they're all over.
They everywhere, on the highways.
Let me tell you, on the first day, my students were complaining about Johnny Jungle,
Just liquor alone, you know.
right? They
Liquor.
said, oh, we like this Johnny Jungle. I don't know why they have this foolishness. I said, stop right
Who
there.
said that?
I said, that is our culture. That's your problem right now. If you kill them, you have no culture. I say, and the Chinese give you right on Bay Street, a couple of years, when they drive them.
They
Right.
Get yourself quick.
Hey,
You don't use,
They
you
can-
don't
they
use
can
it,
put 'em there.
somebody else will.
Yes. That's exactly what I was saying. You sell,
Yeah.
the dollar road sell collect $5, they sell collect $4.50.
Cause you know why?
$2, they beating you.
Yeah, but you know why?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Cause I know that people go buy.
No. When they buy for
Wholesale.
all.
Everybody.
All, every one of their shops.
You would think they had
No, that's you, when you
They
buy
don't
it,
damage.
cause when they buy, they're not buying for one shop, they're buying for 30 shops.
That's a whole.
Whoever's
come
gonna come,
together.
he
Yeah.
say, your bill is this?
Stated to Coca-Cola how much they're going to pay for their bulk
See
Yeah.
that?
purchase.
Uh-huh, because they come in bulk,
Because it's so
right?
big, yeah.
They come in bulk.
They come in one order.
One
One
order,
order.
that's right.
Smart.
I
And
can
that's
say
how-
do everything
and
in
that's how
one
all-
because
and
I've
that's
been
how
in Cape
all the
Bahamas
small
line before.
businessmen supposed
And there were
to
two Chinese,
operate single.
Asian, I don't know if they were Chinese
No.
or whatever, but two Asian women on the line.
Well,
Me and
everybody-
everybody-
Had two bags,
all
and
work
everybody-
together,
and they was just
but I'm
pulling out
sure
cash
there's
and
some
checks
people
and just
who
pulling
can
the
work
stuff,
together.
pulling the
And
stuff,
that's
pulling the stuff, pulling the
right.
stuff.
They all, the black
When you
always
come in
thinking
these
this one
classrooms,
gonna
Yes.
rip
you
me
meet
off, the
different
next one
people
gonna rip me off,
from
the
different
second one,
walks of
am I
life. And you get to see who can I work with.
The Chinese is support their own, they would not step up and listen by or listen to something.
But I want you to realize that
They ain't
the
selling bulk
elite
to nobody.
Bahamians operate that way too.
Yes,
They
they
do.
do.
Okay then,
But they-
they're all Bahamians, they're doing it, so why can't you do it? You just need to find the right people.
That's true.
You can't break that cycle up there.
No, that's finished.
You can't break that.
No, you can't with you, buddy.
You cannot get it.
I, only because the convenience, I say, let me go to Super Value, but I slip once or twice in meat max, I said, I'm not gonna get
No,
this
sir.
money. But if I
No, but the
show
thing
a
about it is, I
sign
have the
right
attitude
Yeah.
too, you know, and I, because I live in Adelaide and I have to come out, when I go to budget, they never have what you need, and you still have to end up
It'll
going further.
Yep.
So I want to support Bahamians, and my further regrettably is
go
a
and
corporation so further, that's the problem, is a corporation
You
further.
coming out there with one bag for $120.
That's my point.
Yeah.
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 Open road.
You can't afford it.
Rich.
So these are the things you have to look at.
Oh, Lord.
I haven't been to
What?
them in almost 7 months.
And I find too that their lawless last Easter,
Yeah.
when all the other liquor stores were supposed to be closed,
Oh, they
they
were.
were selling there.
See?
And I'm like,
How y'all open? Well, like, it's y'all up.
They
oh,
was
where the
open.
people who supposed to
All
close
day.
up?
Where's resident inspectors in the like,
Okay.
Drinking
okay.
I
there.
guess,
How
I
about the
guess.
Saturday,
Saturday
they
open,
on.
selling there.
Uh-huh.
Come on, man.
Alright. So give us some food for thought.
Yes, that's a lot to swallow.
Yet again, last week too. The
That's
same
true,
thing.
we doing it, we selling
They
our own.
open, yeah.
We getting
They
the little
catering
tip
us,
under the
y'all
table,
need to
okay,
bear.
we ain't gonna say nothing.
Oh.
Y'all stay open, just.
You don't need to, you don't need to purchase this here
Have a
for
look at
Coca-Cola
the
with a
color
big
of your
$125,
skin.
$217,000 check.
skin.
Watch the
See.
stuff that they ship.
My number.
In the middle is
You're
pure
in the
tobacco,
majority.
because they ain't trying to pay the
Financially, you're in the
price.
minority.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Wake up.
Thank you. Get this money.
Listen to me, Mirachi, you speak your part today.
You better wake up.
You gotta wake up.
Wake up. I notice in these class, most classes, I only have women. Wait a minute.
They on the streets.
Why?
Why?
Why? That's the question you ask yourself as a woman. Why?
So I need to drive myself.
Listen to the stories though.
And you go
Listen
over
to
to
the
the
stories.
Some of them are
They get
driven
mad.
there though.
Yeah, some are driven
Some of them
there,
are driven
and
there.
some of them is because women like to be men.
They can do
You
it.
can't,
They can.
no, you cannot dominate a man.
Woman loves to be independent.
No, there's not being in control.
That's it. And it's push them.
They have a different mindset, they're different creatures.
Yeah, mine is an ego. He's balling.
They're different.
They are different.
And when you emasculate a man,
Who does
you
it?
can't come back,
Done, no, sir.
cannot come back. So you're losing your man too.
But the thing is, men need to step up and do what they supposed to be
It's
doing.
how they are
So-
raised.
That's the point, that's why, the first thing I said to her is, I have to
How
drive
they
my
are
son.
raised.
I literally have to drive my
They
son.
gotta be.
Because they're raised, yes.
When you
That's
see
what
18,
the
they
women
need to
just
go
supposed to
there,
do.
get a job.
Their
But they need
responsibility.
to start
And then they
working
need
before
to learn that
18.
men are
Yes.
Because we have a
You
lot of
supposed to
our
take
sons
care
like,
of
oh,
house.
you don't need to wash the shit. No, like you need to
Yeah,
go and empty
but
the
I'm saying
garbage.
it's how you raise your
Yes, it
children.
all comes from home.
Yeah.
When you raise a
supposed to be
child,
Well, he
that
does
is
that
supposed
now,
to be
but I'm talking about the
responsible,
drive
take
otherwise.
care of their home, go out there and work for their
Exactly.
wives. And if you teach your daughter, guess what, you can have a job, you know.
But your husband has to
But
take
your
the lead.
husband has to take the lead in the house.
Exactly.
You can make 100,000, he makes 20, but you do not emasculate that man because he only makes 20.
Yeah.
If he only can give you
But that ain't no
$10,
way you can
Take that
ask them
$10 and
to
buy
take
it.
that $10 and you back it,
Mhm.
and you'll make a better man. But no, see, you gotta realize, the future is not about the money. The crisis we're in now is we don't have families,
They're gone,
they're gone.
yeah. Families now, friends who can,
So that's
Yeah,
another
family.
subject you teach for that.
What?
she preach it.
You ain't hear, she
That's the real
said
church,
Father
yeah.
Acho, she said something about Father
That's
Acho.
the real church, yeah. So you see it.
Every company law class, like tell people, then they open their eyes, and, oh my God,
True.
they didn't know. And I've had students who left this class, even the last one who started their own business. They quit their banking job.
Really?
They said they had dreams to do other things, and they quit.
Step out on faith.
Yes, they're gone.
Some cases you can.
I ain't in here for the comments, but bring it on.
So, they did it. It's up to you.
I gotta get ready.
Get ready, it's true.
Get ready, girl. And when,
That's a line for today.
like she say, even if that one ain't ready, it's coming.
Yeah.
So I gotta be ready.
Yeah, something coming.
Something coming.
Yeah.
And first come, first serve. You gotta
you
be
can do.
swift in this run,
Yeah, or you get left behind.
or you get left behind. And like you say, we gotta come together. You can't just think, okay, yeah, put my little truth. No, let me go sit with whoever and be like, okay, let's do this. Let's come together and see.
Then you form a company.
Alright.
That's how it's done.
You give me a number, I'm after.
No. Statutory. Statutory company is a company with unique features of limited liability and is normally a limited duration company or a segregated accounts company. A SAC consists of a general account or core sales, which contains assets and liabilities, and statutorily they are separated. So normally when you're in the offshore jurisdiction, if you have like a mutual fund, then you register it as a segregated account. So that means that each cell underneath it has assets, but you cannot cross over the cells if they were to become liquidated. Each one is separate.
Account has to close.
Yeah, each account goes by itself. So a SAC is an account containing assets and liabilities that are legally separated from the assets and liabilities of the company's ordinary account or general account. So normally when you have a SAC, you make a declaration to the Securities Commission to confirm, the bank, whoever's holding that account confirms that the general account is not being commingled with the segregated accounts. Why?
Just listening,
No, it's just another license that you get to separate the accounts. That's all it is.
Hence the term
If you have a company
segregated.
called ABC Company, and you get a license to do securities business, you open an account. So that's your operating account for your company. But if you want to have funds that are for particular purposes of particular clients, then you open up segregated accounts under that account.
Oh.
So if you were to be sued, You, as a company, you need to be sued from that general account, not those
The
cells
total
underneath.
accounts, yeah. Kinda like $60.
Yeah. A company established under the segregated accounts legislation may operate segregated accounts with statutory divisions between accounts. This allows the assets of one account to be protected from the liabilities of another account, so they don't cross over, each one is separate. The result is that the accounts will be self-dependent, which means that only the assets of a particular account may be applied to the liabilities of that account. Divisions between accounts do not create separate bodies corporate. So even though they are segregated accounts, they're not separate companies. Company creating a floating charge over certain assets and favors obligations to particular clients or by using complex contractual and trust structures. So a segregated account is different from a group of companies and is different from a trust structure. Understand? Because you know what a trust structure looks like. Yes? No?
No,
Yes?
No.
I don't know that.
The trust, like, you mean like managing the funds and stuff like that?
No.
Like
A trust
trustee?
structure.
No.
You have a trust, and then you have companies under it.
I've heard of it. Heard pieces from this one talking about, but yeah,
Yeah.
the other trust
So
and
the-
the company.
So it'll be like holding companies or something
But under the trust?
under the trust.
The operating companies. A SAC consists of a general account or core cell, which contains assets and liabilities which are statutorily separated from the assets of the SAC. So how do you form a SAC? A company which is incorporated under the Companies Act or the IBC may apply to the registrar to be registered as a SAC with the prior written consent of its primary regulator. Once it is engaged in one of the following business: 1, investment funds; 2, issuing securities; insurance business; a subsidiary of a bank or trust company and not licensed by the central bank; or engage in any other business with the written consent of the primary regulator. What are primary regulators in the Bahamas?
Securities Commission.
That's one.
Central bank.
Two.
Financial corporate service.
Mm-mm.
No.
Insurance commission.
Insurance Commission.
I already have insurance,
Securities.
central bank,
Central bank.
securities.
There's another.
Gaming.
Gaming industry.
Yes.
The gaming board.
So you said financial corporate service provider, they fall under securities.
They fall under the Securities Commission as a division.
A limited duration company under the IBC Act. A company where the company's duration is limited to a limited number of years or duration of specific purpose or activity. Me?
He just look.
Hold on.
Scary.
Yeah, that's a whole 3 hours.
Yeah.
Anybody want some food snacks?
That's another one of my former company law students.
Starting her own company. I told you all. Companies are companies limited by shares, guarantee, or hybrid. Non-profit companies are limited by guarantee and incorporated under the Companies Act. And of course, public companies are incorporated under the Companies Act. A Companies Act company must have a registered office in the Bahamas. You know what I mean by registered office? Mhm. Yes,
Participate.
office.
For physical location?
Mhm. The company is required to maintain certain of its corporate documents at the registered office, including but not limited to a copy of its M&A, the share register, and minutes of meetings and resolutions. It must have at least two companies and two shareholders, two directors and two shareholders. The officers of the company may comprise the president, the secretary, and treasurer, although there is no statutory requirement as to the specific officers that a Companies Act company must have. Generally, the secretary or an authorized person under the provisions of the Articles of Association is required to affix the seal of the company to certain statutory documents. And let me point out to you that not all Companies Act legislation in other jurisdictions require a seal. Because every time people see a document, they keep saying, well, where's the seal? And when they read the Companies Act for that jurisdiction, there is no seal. We still have seal, I don't know why. The Registrar General's Department has recently implemented their e-service, which allows companies and IBCs to be incorporated using an online company and document processing service. Is it working now?
No.
Yeah, we got a new registrar. Maybe it'll work. One of the first steps in incorporating a company is to confirm the availability of the proposed name and reserve it at the registrar. Generally, an FCSP, registered agent, or the general public may reserve a name and any business name which will be included in the company's register. Under Section 4 of the amendment, the name of the intended company may consist of words, combination of words and numbers, or a dual name which may include an English name and a foreign name. The English name need not be a translation of the foreign name. So when you go down to the corner there, you see, when you go up upstairs, that's all you see, it's just airbrushes. And it's allowed. Say no more. All little names like Dawson Shaw and Melanie Shaw, gone. The English name need not be a translation of the foreign name. However, where a foreign name is used, the applicant for the name reservation and subsequently the company must provide the translation of the accents, the characters, or other distinctive marks, script, and symbols used in the foreign name. The company name is initially reserved for 28 days, and the name reservation can be extended for 2 periods of 14 days each. So I hope the new registrar changes these because you can incorporate a company in other jurisdictions online in a minute. All these long days things, that don't happen in the modern world.
Right,
It's like-
companies the name that.
Once the existing company's name are in the system, if you key in a name, the system should actually search and see
Yeah.
if
It's
there's
there.
one like this, it's like this.
Yeah.
Why I have to take this name, go dig up
14
in a
days.
bunch of dusty boxes to see if it's there? All of that is how we lose money in our competitive edge. It is statutory requirement that the company name be reserved prior to incorporation and a valid registration number is entered on the incorporation application form. I can tell you one thing before, cause I may forget it. In other jurisdictions, when you incorporate a company online, there's no M&A. All this thing, we have these lawyers printing up all these papers and charging all these monies, that don't happen. You click a button, and you say, I will abide by the M&As that's in the statute. At the back.
But
And then
you
I'll
don't
start to-
necessarily want to
That's a lot to think
buy
about.
a standard set of M&As.
But, yeah, but we normally sell the package, that's what I'm saying.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. If you don't want to follow it, yes. But in most instances, it's the same as table A in the back of the act. I'm talking about ease of doing business now. It's different from a Bahamian company who sit down and say, okay, I don't want this here, no, I want this here. But for most of those people, they want a company and the flexibility to do business. When I have to sit down and pay all of that money to these people
For nothing.
for nothing. You see my point?
Really necessary.
And I sense that it's the fear of losing business. You see? And then that little click, they keep that moving on, but at the same time, it's hurting the country. Because I'm seeing where I sit, companies are incorporated in all kinds of jurisdictions around the world, and very few from here. Very few. They could call it in and say we're restructuring our company in a week time, all the documents reach.
The state so
How long does it take?
Oh, I just had to tell you what the process is.
14 days and
2 weeks into a month.
Yeah, it takes
28
long,
days.
and it's a click of a button.
I know it's a 24-hour turnaround period, no?
But you don't try it and see that.
Try
That's
it.
IBC's. That's my first.
That don't happen all the time.
Yeah, man, 48 hours, I don't know that. It's okay.
Something always ain't working.
Exactly.
No, they got better though. The system, they got
A
better.
little.
I can't stand them.
It's not them and the system, you know.
The system
It's
is.
the system.
Yep.
Can't stand the people.
The system was installed without the input of the workers.
Agreed.
God, the system is still slow.
The person who invented the system didn't know how the system worked.
First of all.
Not the system he put in, you know, how this system works.
Agreed.
You have to know how this
This is-
system
yeah.
works in order to make this better, in order to automate it. Not the opposite way around. Put in the automation and ask me how to do it.
Oh my God.
It's backwards. Wasting my money. Yeah,
Same thing,
same thing.
Wow.
The Companies Amendment Act allows any person to forego the name reservation for an intended company. In this case, the company will receive a numeric designation, will be generated electronically, and normally see 001 Bahamas Limited. And the fee for dual name reservation is $50. That's no money. That thing should be high, they have them low.
They'll cry, but this.
Notwithstanding the fact that the M&A is the only document required to be filed at incorporation with the articles to be filed subsequently, under the provisions of the Companies Act, in the interest of expediency, they normally file both. But like I said, in other jurisdictions, they don't declare all of those things. The registered agent or the applicant must complete the HTML form and upload their own M&A, upload their memorandum and adopt the statutory first scheduled articles in the company. But that's what I'm saying. The client can actually adopt what's in the act and just move on, but no, they want to have all these long sheets of paper and charge these people $1,500 and more. Huh? For what?
No.
And it's, I'm about to say, it's a template. Only thing
Some
you
of them
do
don't
is
even
you change
use.
the name.
Yeah.
But the first 3
And
pages
the
is
person you're
important.
selling it to will never read it.
No.
Until they get in problems. And you tell them what the law means. They don't, all they know is, I have a company, I run and I go on with it. That's it. But they don't know what it means to have a company. The Company Act requires an affidavit be executed by the witness to the subscribers of the M&A, and a statutory declaration must be prepared and attested by an attorney who notarized the affidavit, and must be notarized before another attorney with the new online services a user, to be whether a registered agent or an applicant. The objects of a company's act company may be any activity that is lawful under the laws of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Because before that, when you would form a company, you actually state what you're going to do. But now instead, what you're actually going to do is in the business license. So you just
It's
say
in the
anything
purpose.
that's law, that's the, you have to put anything that's lawful. And then when you put a business license, then you say what you're going to do, sell shoes, sell paint, whatever. So in addition to the starting incorporation fee of $360, you have to pay stamp duty. $100 is paid on the first 1,000, and you can claim for that. $5 on every additional authorized capital of 1,000 at the public treasury, prior to the manual online filing of the M&A at the company's registry, after the Registrar General's Department. For express, I don't know if that is happened, incorporation within 1 hour, incorporation fee is $500 in addition to the aforementioned incorporation fee. So even if we wanted to, if we reduce these fees and make it more efficient, we can make more money.
A lot of persons are opting incorporating just because of how the system is.
Mm-hmm. You can make it much quicker. It should be noted that fees may be accepted for companies, our companies, for the current year, as well as any previous year, up to 19 years, and for future years. The turnaround time for incorporation of a company, don't believe that, 24 hours. The date of the incorporation of the company is the date that the M&A are filed at the company's registry. Companies are normally the corporate vehicles used by local businesses who wish to conduct business in the Bahamas. So most of the companies are local. And then the things like the banks, international banks, their companies are companies. But most of the clients, offshore clients, they use the IBC. So you have to get your NIV number, must be obtained. And it's done through the completion of the relevant national insurance form, but that's employed a lot of people. They put a new system in place, Department of Inland Revenue. Because now that they've automated it and everything has a process, so a lot of people have moved from different ministries into those ministries.
Yeah.
So like NIB
Yep.
people, they're tasked with making sure that you're registered when you incorporate a company. And then afterwards, they chase you down, just like the church people. Did you pay? You need to pay. And then they come to your establishment.
Yeah.
Did you pay? Yeah. And then now actually giving you advice if you're self-employed, telling you how much you should pay if you want to get something later down.
Contributions.
Yes. Because a lot of people don't realize if you're self-employed, you pay the minimum. And then when you hit 65, you
You
come
can't
in
get
and
enough,
knock it,
you know,
and you get
you're not
150.
Yeah.
And you realize that I was making a lot all along, if I had taken it up to the ceiling, I would have gotten more. Yeah, so they're doing a lot of education. So there's no fee for the issuance of the national insurance number for the company employer. Business license required under the Business License Act for any entity which is carrying on or wishes to carry on business in the Bahamas. Now the funny thing with this is, the business license moved from Frederick Street
To Michael Road.
And they lost
Now
the
they-
documents.
And then now they
How is
moved
that
to
possible?
Tingham on Glaston Road.
They
I
move
think
again.
they- yeah, they
Mhm.
moved
They
to-
lost people documents.
Yes, a lot of people that.
Yeah, they've lost documents. How is that possible?
They dropped them off to another ministry and then.
Lost the boxes,
Yeah, the boxes.
never reached.
That's about it.
So to obtain a business license, the company must complete a business registration form, submit proof of citizenship of the beneficial owners of the company. And now this is where the normally thing comes in. Okay, so you proof of citizenship of the beneficial owners of the company, a copy of certificate of incorporation of the company, a copy of certificate of registration from NIB, a copy of the lease of the property, a copy of the certificate of sanitation. This take a long time. All these copies you gotta get.
Yes.
And you gotta get these physically. You don't just go on the system and click it. You see what I'm
The
saying?
original copy. That's
No,
what you mean.
but in the days where electronic copy is
It's
admissible.
yeah.
What I'm saying is you have to physically go to these people, physically drive there.
To the
Rather
different
than
ones.
just, after you finish each step
Wow.
and you get this, then the system should allow you, using the same number, you move to the next step. When that is processed, you move to the next step. Why are we still in the dark ages? And then of course the Department of Health. The trade name of the company does not have to be registered separately, as was previously required, and may now be included on the business registration form under the Business License Act. So this is where from the bank's perspective and the ease of account opening. A lot of people had these trading as companies, but they were not registered. Now they have to go and get registered. So many banks and trust companies, retail or wholesale businesses and private commercial enterprises, like I said, are incorporated under the Companies Act. Companies are required to file an annual statement confirming the shareholding, any change in shareholding, directors and officers. A proof of seal is required upon filing the first annual statement of the company at the company's registry. That's another chaotic place when you go to file these things. Line long, you drop it yesterday, they can't find it today.
Facts.
Okay.
Annual statement should normally be completed and filed within 14 days of the company's AGM. An annual return declaring whether or not 60% of the shares are beneficially owned by Bahamians must be filed on or before the 1st of January of every year. For companies registered on the 1st in each year, where not less than 60% of the shares are beneficially owned by Bahamians, the fee is $3.50. Where less than 60% of the fees are of the shares are owned by Bahamians, then you pay $1,000. No fee is required to be paid in respect of any company incorporated commencing from July to December, because you already passed the half-year mark. It's important to note that in addition to obtaining a national insurance number as a company, of course, you have to go and register with VAT. A company should have at least 2 directors within 3 months of the date of incorporation. The directors of a company limited by shares or by guarantee, the director should call a general meeting. The shareholders, the meeting shall be held at such place as is provided by articles, or in the absence of any such provision or location in the Bahamas as the directors determine. So in most instances, meetings are held via telephone. If a quorum is not present within 30 minutes of the time appointed for the meeting of members, the meeting stands adjourned to the same date, 2 weeks thereafter, at the same time and place. And if at the adjourned meeting a quorum is not present within 30 minutes of the appointed time, the members present constitute a quorum. You'll find a lot when it comes to meetings that people adjourn meetings based on how they feel, rather than what the law requires. That's why I put an example like that in the capstone, so you can go and see what the law requires. And of course, VAT, you know what VAT is all about, right? Threshold is 1,000, 100,000, and it's based on consumption. Then I have a lot here, but VAT, you could read it. I don't examine you on VAT.
Got that, huh?
Yes.
Again?
What do you mean again? What was the initial rate? What was the initial rate?
And they
When that first came out, what was the initial rate?
I was
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
the proposed.
That's for the guy to 7.5.
And higher.
What?
They've confirmed that?
Oh, it's being-
What I keep telling you?
Things are changing.
Lazy government. Stop sleeping.
Lazy government taxes to people.
You said higher though.
Yes.
What
You
changes?
consume a lot.
18%.
Maybe higher.
Thomas,
But Canada is like about 18%.
Yeah, but you could see
Yeah.
where your money going down though.
Yeah.
Okay, stop dwelling on the past.
let's see what happened.
Yeah, that's the dwelling on the past.
Okay, you say those.
Right now, you in a deep hole, you gotta get out.
Well, how we know you said?
But the whole
we
still
have
is
mine
getting
and
deeper and deeper because of the
mine.
money borrowing. So I'm still confused with we present how much money we purportedly taking, but we still borrowing 600 something million at a time and everything. Why are we still borrowing? We can't hold one plug. Could we plug some holes first before we keep?
Well, we need some foreign direct investments.
I need something.
You need
That's what we
someone to
need.
come in and run huge projects where we sell something for 200 million here, 300 million here, and then they employ 150 here, 250 here.
So that's why they're doing the WTO.
These
for
pirates
You got-
and
you need
suits,
people to
they
come
get
in.
greedy, man.
Who?
These pirates and suits.
Yeah, I know the pirates get greedy,
Like when they see.
but I want you to know this. with the opening of the world and television, you can see pirates are in every country.
Yep.
Every day you see somebody get jeans on, they do something. Everybody does it.
Yeah, but not because everybody.
No, but I'm just saying, it's not just us.
That's
They
fine.
keep making us feel as if because we are pirates, that we're the only pirates in the world. There are pirates all over.
I agree, but I prefer the pirates in Nassau, that when you see some, take a little bit, don't take all. Just take a little bit.
Remember now, even when those pirates come here, you have to execute a contract that's in the best interest of your country.
Well, whoever the
Not your
negotiators
pocket.
is right now, they need to
You
find
see what
out.
I'm saying?
That's what these pirates.
That's what it is.
Yep.
They're not even thinking, I don't feel, the pirates who we have mine and the ship, is think with the country in the future.
Well, that's, then when they come that 5 years around, find the right person. If you don't find the right person, then you do it yourself.
I don't think the right.
Exactly, because a lot of people who should, don't.
Right.
Mm-mm.
It's too dirty a business.
Yeah.
And once you get caught up
It is a
with
very
it,
dirty business.
Very nice,
once you get caught up, your name is
And
still
if,
mud.
if you're not, if you're not
Honest,
like,
'cause when you
if
back
you're
out,
not like the former president.
And you
where
can't,
your
a regular
whole life
person in the
was
crowd,
there
you can't,
towards
because somebody's
sitting
standing
in
there
that
looking
chair,
at you,
Right.
whispering
Yeah.
or
Too
talking
many
plainly in your face.
skeletons.
Basically, you're talking to you.
You
So
see what I
you,
mean?
Yeah.
He works.
So again, I
You
go
might
back
wanna
to
be a
parents.
patriot.
You have to groom your children for these
full
positions.
of your family.
What are the Russians do when they have ballerinas? They groom them from
Small,
young.
yes, they do.
They eat their little salad, eat their little salad, eat their little salad, eat their little salad. You have to groom. If you have 4, you groom your 4 boys, out of them 1 may be dumb. But if you don't groom them, everybody just run and do what they feel like, it won't happen.
But in the pocket.
And now women can be prime ministers.
She could be prime minister.
No, don't
No, no,
go there.
no.
Whatever, that's Barbados. Yeah, Barbados. Anyway, let's switch, let's go. Back may be charged.
No, you read back when you go home.
Read our IBCs.
Yeah, go to IBCs now. You read back. Incorporation formalities for IBCs are simple. That's what they say. Given the new online e-services.
Where were you? Which page? 36?
Page 36.
Mhm.
Okay.
You can read it back when you go home.
Okay.
Incorporations completed by registration by the Registrar General at the company. Well, it's the same place. It's just that instead of incorporating it under the Companies Act, we incorporate it under the IBC Act.
Yeah.
So hopefully when you come next week, you bring your acts with you. Yes?
Well, I can.
Yes.
Right there.
Why you ain't gonna be here next week?
There's a holiday on the 11th, so I have to go wait for that. Adele was born on the 11th of February. It's a holiday.
You walk straight into that.
So,
I was sitting there saying, which holiday? But it's
It's
all
a
holiday.
holiday. What's your point? It's a holiday.
it's like every
Crack.
time.
Your mom is a holiday when you were born.
It's a holiday in
Crackhead.
Surgery.
That's not.
So I'm not gonna be on that day, but I'm gonna try to be up to the times. I don't wanna talk to you when you're there. IBC Act.
I don't know all these young people. So IBCs are corporate vehicles designed for commercial, corporate, wealth management, property holding, trading, insurance, and investment purposes for business people who wish to leverage their unique features. So, the OECD said it, this must stop.
So it is high.
These little IBCs and all of these people running around, you know? You get those for money laundering and tax evasion.
Yep.
They must stop.
They were high, get money.
They say we get blacklist next week.
Well, they hope not. They said it appeared to be kind of like, okay. And then when they left, it looked okay. They didn't do sure.
You feel there's still hope for the offshore sector? And all these,
We have to re-engineer ourselves. Because there's a lot of things all happening at the same time. You have that man over there issuing sanctions,
Mm-hmm.
interfering in domestic politics, destabilizing economies. You have them set over there
Mr. Cheeto?
saying all of us little small little footprints in the globe hiding their people money and they want it back.
That's UK.
No, it's all of it,
UAE.
right? And then you have further north on that side, you have that big player who says all of them who follow their political persuasion, all those countries. About
Russia, Asia.
Russia.
That's Russia.
That's a different bond. So you have all of these things going on, attacks from all over. So there are opportunities for us. We just have to decide which one are we going to take. Because you have to be careful who you side with. We could get squashed. Maybe build a wall. Y'all can go to Miami. I don't know what y'all are doing.
Oh, I don't know.
Let me
They're gonna be on a date.
Large, big, right off.
I know, right?
Who climbing?
The whole thing's orange.
Who climbing the wall?
Yeah, they gonna make a way to get over that wall. Get Florida.
Who could be the first one? So it's a lot of different things that happen in the same
Can
time.
you say human paddle? Okay.
It's a lot.
How you feel about WPA?
I haven't studied it. I mean, I hear the people on the radio, but I don't listen to them.
But Mr. Lang said he was ready to go thing on my own. What's wrong with him?
Yeah,
He said what?
That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
right, he said he didn't
He
read
got
all of it.
blindsided, said he didn't read.
But he supports it.
Yes, and
I
he's
just
doing
want something you
things.
never read. I
That's
haven't read
right.
it, so I don't know what it's about.
I fully
That's what
agree.
I'm saying. I heard that, I was
documents
like,
thing.
no, they talking foolishness.
I
They
thought
said
he was
said
well
that,
versed.
right?
My dad was versed.
They-
Considering they appointed him as the representative to do all of the nugget. I done with you. I done with you. There's no way he read one.
I can't believe that, I cannot believe that.
That's what he said.
On the
He
talk
said it.
show and on an interview, he said it.
There had to be a different question. There's no way they asked, how do you feel? And no, it had to be a different question.
What he name said it.
And that's
Jeez.
scary.
I don't know.
When he said it, it's
So
like
what's
it
the
said it's
WTA?
scary.
I study it though. But I don't want to devote my time.
But I hear them all complaining, saying that, there's gonna be open up
Free
the
trade.
competition. Yes,
Yeah.
free trade, right?
Yeah.
But we knew this long time from when we had the discussions with CARICOM.
Yeah.
When we decided we would do the free movement of people, because we were afraid, because our people were uneducated. And they still didn't go back to school to get educated. And that's like I'm saying, our eyes are closed. The world is moving, it is moving in a different direction.
Jesus,
You
keep
have
us.
to get ready. You can't stay here and say the foreign attorneys can't come no more. Then there's over. This is a global village. If you wanna do business with China, you gotta get some Chinese lawyers. How you gonna make it?
So we can practice on.
No, you can practice, because they don't know the nuances of here, but you need their here in order to transact with them. That's why I say, open your eyes. Better. And the thing that you don't see is that every foreigner comes here doesn't wanna leave.
Oh, we
But
see
that's
that.
big.
I see that. I see that.
Pardon you?
I see
Where
that.
do you, what?
So
They
what
don't wanna
they
leave.
see that
It's
you're
correct.
missing.
They don't want to.
I see it.
So,
I see what they're saying.
So if I got what you need, why can't you
I
make
can't
me
see
the
that.
benefactor of that, not just you benefit me?
huh?
How come we can't negotiate that? I mean, you, obviously we got what you
And
need.
imagine if you come and someone paying for everything while you're here.
And they're exposed
Why
to things
is
we don't know
it
that
exposed
even
to
exist.
things?
Oh,
Yeah, they go and they explore this country.
back.
They go all to the.
There's an expert that came in
They
and
explore this
he
country.
came in for like
Because
2
when I
weeks.
reach
No
here,
working.
I find out in my circle that she is from another country, but she's here also as a foreigner. But she knows that her friend over there has a boat. And they arrange something and they go, they sightsee. Then they have their little drinks and eat. No, not yours. I in my house, I don't
I
want to.
stand there. I I started to say
I
this,
don't
the
want him in
extra
my
came
house.
of
We
it.
have an expert with her.
He was
She's
talking
been to
about
every
places that I didn't even know.
I
was
like,
there.
but that's what I'm telling you.
And I live
Yeah.
here 42
And
times.
also, most of us don't even get like 4.
Yeah,
Why you laughing?
they make it a point.
Yes.
I almost come up with it.
And when they travel, they call this their home.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And after they've visited here for 6 months, they will buy a home.
I was
Yeah,
about
yeah.
to say. don't
Yeah,
let
they
them
can
buy
bring
a
their
house,
family
that's it.
peace
And they buy a
by
home
peace.
whether their spouse wanna come or not.
That's right.
Every day he's showing me
That's
pictures.
right.
I said,
And then
"What's
when the
this?"
children
And I
get a
get
certain age,
Uh-huh.
and they're off age, and they finish school, wherever they are in the
It's their place
world,
to come.
they call, you ready to come?
Uh-huh.
She say no, they say bye.
That is correct.
They're not going back.
You're right about that.
They love the airport.
They love it.
Oh, those guys.
They love it here.
I
And
live where
don't
you
be
wanna be.
surprised,
And who come
in the
with those
next
spouse
25 to
married?
30 years, they lobby for more rights.
Or who married end up with a Bahamian. Why are you gonna limit after that? What are you doing? Don't do that.
What?
I need you not to do that.
What's that?
I said in 1 or 2, you know, they married. and
When they come, they may not be married. They
Oh, they do that first.
Some of them.
That's the first thing they look
Yeah.
for. They won't,
Yeah,
they
but
won't
what about the
speak
ones
or
who
touch
come married?
while they're still married and the kids are in school. But as soon as you see
That's
that
the
over,
truth.
that's it.
You sure?
Gone.
As far,
Yeah,
I
I
know,
know,
my
right?
point is, she wants
Majority
to do
of
like
them.
there's some kind of full
Majority
stop,
of
there's no
them.
full stop, there's a run on
Majority
time.
don't do it. Don't forget, this is like the plantation now. You out there in the plantation, I see you look good, I may call you up to the house or visit you in the barn.
Alright.
But that wife stays in the
Yes,
house.
yes,
I
yes,
call you
yes,
up.
yes.
That
Okay.
don't change, that don't
That's correct.
change.
That's correct.
That's the truth.
That's correct.
You learn from history.
Cause it
Only
repeats
chance you
itself.
take is,
It's correct.
the chance you take is, he can find a prettier one out there and leave you, or you can have a baby and he ignores you, don't know you, or you wait until she dies.
Mama go.
That's some shit. I mean, that's
Oh,
some
oh,
bullshit.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I home tired.
But you have to realize the situation you're in, in this environment.
Yeah.
You got it.
So when they come here, we're like looking at a rare treasure,
Yes.
a
Who,
rare
them
treasure.
or them in reverse to us?
No, that's what they see at us.
Oh,
They're
that's
different,
right, and of course.
very different.
Yeah.
And they'll find the right one who they think can adapt to their ways. Eat salad, stay small. All them kind of things.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right.
You can wait for me, eh?
No.
Students.
Oh, they love you.
Like serious.
They love you.
Yeah, I haven't changed this job.
Oh, there.
Yeah, I got it.
Good.
I say you're wasting your time.
My God.
And in the space of 3 months,
Okay.
Was
it
that-
went up.
Who was acting on me?
He was an immigration officer. He's now fine.
Wow.
Good. I say wasting your time.
And you just saw.
I want you to believe you can get paid more than me hooking in it for a while.
Huh?
Cause he's a man.
See what?
I guarantee you, you'll get paid more than me who's been in it for a little while because he's a man.
He's a man.
Men get paid more than you know.
Yeah, he's a man. I tell you the difference. He's a man. Come to work on time.
Mm-hmm, check,
Come to work on time.
Check, check.
check.
Okay.
Mhm.
Dedicated.
Check.
Check and check.
He takes no mess.
I get that.
He speaks his mind.
Check.
Okay, so,
Not argumentative.
No.
no.
Right? He is eager to learn.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get that.
Okay. Eager to learn.
Productive.
I have a new MD, so I guess I can find
He
some
could,
stuff.
if you ask him to do something for you based on his old occupation, he will do it
Okay.
on his time. No complaints.
He was in his presence for 3 months and
I told him.
sums all up.
Mm-hmm.
But don't judge me on the first day.
Would you say that, man?
Mm-hmm.
Women, once a month, problem. I sick today. What happened?
Yeah, I don't
You-
get that one.
You know,
Yeah,
no,
no,
you don't get that, but I'm talking to
yeah,
young
yeah.
people, that going on.
Like really?
Tired.
Tired,
Headache,
I get flu.
Yeah.
You flu for true? Yeah, I feel it coming on.
Yeah, me too.
No flu.
Oh,
What did you have? I don't know, something passed. What passed?
Tired, they don't be the way.
Exactly. This is different.
Tired boys.
You do?
So they say, for
Um,
the song,
Anyhow, let's go
They
read
say they
about
are the
IBC.
season.
They always supposed to be on season.
That's what the song says.
That's right.
I don't know that song. No. No, it's too much. So if a company was not already incorporated as an IBC prior to the application, the memorandum of the company must limit the company's duration to a period of 30 years or less. And the name of the company to include the words limited duration company or the abbreviation LDC. An existing company incorporated under the IBC Act may also register as a limited duration company. A company ceases to be limited duration if it dissolves and the registrar issues a certificate, or the registrar issues a certificate of incorporation and which records the change of the name for the company that does not include the words limited duration company, or they pass a resolution to alter its memorandum to winding up of a limited duration company and cancellation of registration of company that exceeds or is capable of exceeding 30 years. And of course, the requisite fee must be paid, and the registrar issues a certificate of incorporation also to meet the circumstances of the case. Under the IBC legislation, IBCs are no longer prohibited from conducting business with Bahamians.
There you go.
You heard that?
Yep.
Or from having an interest in or lease real property in the Bahamas. They remain versatile corporate entities of international business. So no person other than a bank or trust company licensed under the BTCRA shall incorporate an IBC unless such person is licensed and approved under the Financial and Corporate Service Providers Act. IBCs may maintain bank accounts with banks operating within the Bahamas, subject to customer due diligence, know your client, and certain documentary requirements. They may also establish and maintain professional contact with attorneys, accountants, and other consultants who practice in the Bahamas. So this is like a niche market for the Bahamas since 2000. And you know, you have to provide statistics all over the world. And so once statistics go there that the number of IBCs are increasing, then of course more attention will be in the Bahamas. And we were, I think, one of the first countries to institute this whole IBC. And so of course there's more pressure on us than other jurisdictions who copied us. So incorporation, like you know, is very simple. It's very similar to when you do it under the Companies Act online. So I don't think that you can read that. On the exam, I don't actually nothing but no fees. There's no fees to change at the whim of the minister.
Minister, the people who work in the register.
Tell me it should be the day.
Is that you?
They do not do that. I have to do the registrar in my class. They do not do that. The fees are in the regulation.
They are,
it?
but
Maybe
yeah,
the
when you
person-
submit a document, they take and tell you that ain't the right price.
How did I tell you that?
That's another day.
That's the amount, I can't tell you what they tell me to tell them, that's what they do. But that's a different day, let's go,
I
on,
don't
go
know
here.
who they are. But I've had students and we went through that. I mean, some were surprised. So that could be why. 'Cause they were trying to do this, and they say, this is what this is. And then I said that this document must fall
In that
in
category,
that
at that
category,
cost.
because it follows this. Yeah, they didn't know. So you can argue, you know. So at IBC, just like a company can be limited by shares guaranteed, you can have an unlimited company, a limited duration, or you can have a SAC. The memorandum of association provides the name of the company, the registered office, registered agent, the objects, the authorized capital, number of shares and the currency in which the shares are to be issued. And then I've said that ultra-virus doctrine does not apply, hence there's no need to delineate all the objects of the company. Remember I said that when you read it, it doesn't suggest that anything that's lawful in the Bahamas. IBCs can amend their M&As by shareholders or directors' resolution as and where permitted. Only registered shares are allowed for IBC, bearer shares are prohibited, right? Now, in other jurisdictions that followed after us with IBCs, they continued with bearer shares.
What are bearer shares?
Bearer shares mean you have a share certificate and there's no name in it. So if you owe her some money,
Awesome.
you could just give it to her,
Okay.
and she becomes the owner of the company, rather than you.
Oh.
So, we had to take that out for AML purposes.
Yes,
We had to make all of our shares have to be
Registered.
registered shares.
the third party shares.
So, no, they'll be registered.
But
You
no
can
one
still use a
owns the
nominee.
share, okay.
You can still use a nominee.
But you cannot have
You
their
can
own.
use a company that is registered under the Financial Corporate Service Providers Act,
Right.
and that company can act as a nominee
Shareholder.
instead of a nominee shareholder.
Okay.
And so behind that, you have a nominee shareholder agreement,
Agreement, so
which
the
will have
owner
your name
and the
with the
owner.
name of the company,
Okay,
setting
that's what I
out
wanted.
what they're doing on your behalf.
So you know who it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what they did was, they said that we had to get rid of all bearer shares, but the other offshore jurisdiction didn't have to do it.
Wow.
And even up to today, other countries that have bearer shares, what they did was they changed their legislation and say, you don't have to get rid of the bearer shares, but the custodian must send a declaration at the end of each year that they're still holding the shares for you. You see the difference? Whereas we,
Need to have
Had to
their own
say-
name on it.
absolute registered shares. But those other countries that compete with us are allowed to have bearer shares.
Wow.
So again, we lose money. Because why am I gonna incorporate with you,
Right,
have
incorporate
registered
somebody
shares, and I
else.
can go to other countries and have a bearer share? And meet their legal requirements. And plus, it's faster to incorporate too.
Yeah.
So there's no minimum authorized capital required for IBCs. The authorized share capital of an IBC may be divided into various classes of shares, each with different voting, dividend, and other rights. The capital may be denominated in any currency. Shares may be issued in fractions, in registered form only, and may be of no par value. Unnumbered shares are permitted. In addition, in certain circumstances, IBCs may purchase, redeem, or otherwise acquire their own shares. There need only be one shareholder for an IBC. There are no nationality or residency requirements for shareholders. Subject to contrary provision in its M&A, meetings of members may be convened by the directors or by members holding more than 50% of the votes or such lesser percentage as prescribed in its M&A, and may be held within or outside of the Bahamas. Members may attend in person, by proxy, or by telephone. Where you normally would see meetings held by proxy. What type of companies?
Publicly traded.
Yes. For the ones we have listed on the sex, are normally by proxy. All meetings must take place within or outside of the Bahamas. An IBC is also required to have one director, who may be an individual or a company, and such director need not be a Bahamian resident. So like I said, in most IBCs, the shareholder may be a nominee, and then the ultimate beneficial owner is the director. The subscribers to the memorandum elect the first directors, and the MOA governs the subsequent appointments. Meetings are convened by the directors and may be held within or outside of the Bahamas. The directors may attend in person, by telephone, or any other electronic method. IBCs may indemnify their directors against all proceedings against them, provided they acted honestly and in good faith, and of course in the best interest of the company. Confidentiality. IBC still affords a high degree of confidentiality since they are only limited filing requirements for an IBC. It is only the name of the company, his registered office, and that of his registered agent's name and address. Of course, the M&A, including any amendments, and the name and addresses of the director. So OECD also have an issue with this.
It's not enough information.
No, they want to know who's the person behind the company. So that's why they're lobbying for the beneficial registry. Because they wanna know who these persons are, to see if they're evading any taxes. The names and address of the company shareholders are only registered in the share register maintained at the registered office of the company and are not filed or registered in any public register in the Bahamas, and therefore provide the investor with total privacy. IBC is required by law to maintain a registered office and a registered agent, so that's why in 2000, we carved out the Financial Corporate Service Providers Act, so that we could give all of those Bahamians who were part of all those redundancy packages, when the offshore banks closed, all those branches closed and they didn't want to establish subsidiaries, so all those professional bankers, they created a market for them. The minutes of meetings and copies of resolutions of directors, members and officers, registered directors, and are to be kept in the registered office. The corporate seal and then an imprint can be kept at its registered office. Because it depends on what type of business they're doing. Let's say if they're into trade financing, then the director, who's actually the BO, would have the seal with them as the execute contracts, they have it with them. So in addition to the payment of annual government fees, IBCs must maintain copies of the M&A, the register of directors and officers, the share register at their registered office. And the register of directors and office must be filed with the company's registry at the Registrar General's Department. So there are some additional features why people like to get IBCs. And some of them are exemption from stamp duty. The exchange control regulations don't apply. They can issue fractional or no par value shares. You only need 2 persons to incorporate an IBC, and the shares will be transferred at will. They can purchase or acquire its own issued and outstanding shares. They're not subject to any business license fee, income tax, corporation tax, capital gain tax, or any other tax on income or distributions. So it depends on how these talks are going now. All of this may change in another year. Because they're looking at the preferential treatment with regard to having the foreign entity paying less tax than the local entity. But if we tax them more, then they will go. And if we don't tax them sufficiently, they will close us. So you're being squeezed on all fronts, international front and the domestic front. Ease of merger and consolidation with other companies incorporated in the Bahamas or foreign companies. Minimal statutory filing and reporting requirements. Its assets may be transferred in trusts for the benefit of its creditors, shareholders, or other persons having an interest. Capital may be expressed in any currency. You can hold your directors or shareholders meetings by telephone. And you can pass directors and shareholders resolution by consent in writing or by means of electronic communication. You may have only one director who may be individual or company and need not be a resident in the Bahamas. So this is another thing that they don't like. They don't like when you look on the return, the shareholder is a company and the director is a company. To them, that is just like a recipe for money laundering or tax evasion. But that's the way in which we make money. But it's a model that is no longer accepted and nor will it be tolerated. You can see now with the EU, what the EU did for tax evasion was, it said each country, each member country must look at its own financials and then create its own regulation in order to obtain its taxes. But that's why you see the first country was the Netherlands when they blacklisted us. Because they looked at their finances, they were short, and they settled the rules. And so each one of those countries have to do the same thing. And so if each one of them start coming up with deficit, then they're gonna start blacklisting the countries where their citizens do business. So in the Netherlands, the wealthy people from their jurisdiction custody their assets in the Bahamas. So that means that now we're gonna have to comply with the new rules of Netherlands to meet their legislative requirements. So that means that slowly, persons who didn't pay the right tax or didn't pay taxes at all, gonna have to move their money. IBCs may hold securities in other Bahamian companies. Yes, you can open your eyes and see. Securities of an IBC may be held by anyone. Dividends may be paid in money, shares, or other property, or only other surplus. And for the purpose of determining such surplus, the net unrealized appreciation of assets of the company may be included in such calculation. A foreign company may provisionally register with the Register of Companies to become or to be continued as an IBC once predetermined conditions are met. You can transfer to another jurisdiction. You could, but already have you be exempt from exchange control regulations. And of course, you can use the words limited, corporation, incorporated, society anonyme, or sociedad anonima, or any other abbreviation. So at the back here, what I did is highlighted the distinguishing features side by side. And so you can read those. So next week, bring your app, because especially when we look at chairs and we look at directors, we compare the two legislation together. So you see the difference between the IBC Act and the Companies Act. We good? So read some more cases. And if you've read a lot of cases already, you can start to read the Act. IBC Act and then the Companies Act. Don't worry too much about that. Just read it. Okay? So the midterm is coming up. I can give you an option. No, you still have the midterm. I can do the midterm 60-40.
What's that mean?
40.
No, that's your final exam.
That's the final one.
40, you can form one lot of three. Groups of 2, 1 of 3. And you could do the comparative analysis of different offshore jurisdictions incorporation process, inclusive of fees.
Inclusive of
Fees. Because to me, it's a good eye opener for you to see where we are versus our competitors.
So that'll be what, 40%?
Of the midterm.
Mm-hmm.
That's if
We don't have to do it on the
exam.
midterm day. On the midterm day, you come and do the 60%. You pick a different day to do the presentations.
So the 60% is what?
Mm-hmm.
Short answers?
Mhm.
Oh, short answers. Not really short answers.
Yes.
So the
I saw you.
midterm, let's see on my PDF.
The midterm is in 2 weeks.
Yes, the 16th, no, the 23rd.
No, I'm saying is, We won't do the presentation on that date.
Right. So we-
That day you just come and do the written exam. We pick a different date for the presentation.
March
Which
2nd will
jurisdictions?
be probably the presentation,
Hmm?
March 2nd.
No, what's it called?
We doing all jurisdictions?
It's the examination day.
Yeah, we could probably do it here.
Right. The second.
You can do it on the second. On the second?
Yeah.
So let's pick some jurisdictions and groupings. She is in here. So we need, one group needs 3, and then the other ones can have 2. 2, 2, 2, so.
She's my partner.
I put you on with you, I don't really go with somebody more than what you want.
Why you keep singing yourself when I told you so?
Shade beyond compare. What am I gonna do with her?
She's just making a joke.
That was a nice joke
Another
though.
person.
Alright folks, it's been fun.
You go on?
No, I wait.
I wait. So these the presentations.
The
But you
jurisdiction.
can choose.
With another person.
Hmm?
It does.
Malta, that's us?
Yeah.
I'm trying to read it, okay.
Person on us.
Yeah, it's right. That's what I
Yeah,
was
it's rain.
Mauritius.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember them off my head now.
Nevis, Cayman,
Canada.
Barbados,
St.
Seychelles,
Kitts?
Nevis, and Nevis, yeah. Seychelles,
Mm-hmm.
Ireland.
Not much. But you have these people.
Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. And these people.
The UAE.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are going here. A lot of people.
Dixie Doha.
Going here and here.
Asante.
So how many out of those you want us to choose from?
If it's a group of 2, then you'll do 2. So y'all need to decide amongst yourself what you're going to do.
Yeah, I'll call her. She ain't gonna say one word, we was having a day.
And you compare it to the Bahamas. So let's say whatever 2 you pick, then you compare it to the Bahamian process.
Okay.
What exactly?
Formation.
Formation.
And fees.
Formation and
Processing.
fees.
Formation fees.
Formation and fees.
Formation.
Yeah.
Formation process and fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Requirements and all that other stuff.
That's the same thing we did in this chapter. How do you incorporate a company? What different types of companies they have. And if you're able to, you should be able to see the fees. Any other country I miss? How you know?
Who asked me?
Latvia or, you know, what they used to do around there too?
Who?
Latvia, the place called Latvia or.
Latvia?
Latvia?
Yeah.
I don't know much incorporation here. No.
I'm saying a lot of people are going this,
Here. 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 You have some people do this one. You have some here. Mauritius. Plenty there.
BVI, yeah.
Plenty there. Yeah. So who's gonna do what? Y'all need to decide before you leave. What you doing?
I think it's Panama.
You gonna do BVI?
I'll do Panama.
Who's doing
no, we don't
BVI?
be, who don't
Who you working with? Y'all too? So which 2 countries you gonna do BVI and what? Huh? You do BVI in Panama?
I wanna do Panama.
Or you do Hong Kong?
Is it fair the two
Okay.
lawyers are working together?
BVI and Hong Kong, those 2 are gonna do, so they're gone. Next group.
Panama.
Panama.
Panama
Calm down and just
is
read.
one.
Huh? You by yourself it? Y'all 2 Panama and what?
And, Malta.
Malta? Okay, they gone. Next.
That's all?
St. Kitts? And who?
It's gonna be 3.
Okay, St. Kitts?
Oh, and then this is
Wait,
It's gonna be 8 Minnehaha
That's the there.
So, St. Kitts?
but could we choose something that somebody else has already done?
No.
So last 3
So
is
that's-
Mauritius.
No, there's
Seychelles.
more. Don't worry. I just can't think of it now. There are many more.
Okay.
So what you want? St. Kitts and what?
She said UAE.
That's 2. There's 3 of you. So which one of these?
The 3 of them still only get 2 because you said it has to be groupings of 3 to 2. No, there's three of them in that group.
Barney, and that's
They have
it.
three.
So would we have St. Kitts?
No, there's more. Whichever group is left, I'll give them the names of the other
That's what
ones.
she said.
Yeah.
Right.
So one more. Which one you want?
Out of those two, which one you want?
You already picked that one?
You want Mauritius? You take Mauritius? Or Seychelles?
Mauritius.
Mauritius she'll go. Okay, so you take Seychelles and I'll give you another one.
That's fine. Okay.
Good? All right. Bye.
Excuse you, I tell you I wanted to rock.
I thought you was leaving. You'll be buying you the first one out the wrong. Okay, so we good. All right.
Ms. Archer, I couldn't recall when you worked, I was stumped, and I don't have any
Let me look at this.
Those were the two.
Why is she saying the conversation between you and I?
Because y'all back me here.
Yes.
No, but she back me here.
You notice I'm not paying
Let
enough.
me put an asterisk to my name and you can call me later then.
Thank you. Okay.
And you're serious with this?
You asked, you know, you asked.
So, Sasha, where do you work?
See you guys.
Okay, have a great weekend.
All right.